Hello YouTube, this is Problematic Boy, and I'm gonna come at you with a build overview for the build that was in my last video when I was talking about season 4. This is basically, sorry, I just got up. I'll come at you raw, no coffee, just got up, but my cats are both sleeping and the one rowdy cat is asleep, so this is like a great time for me to make a video. So I'm going to, this is Burst Rehan, so let's talk about the build a little bit. This is a build overview, it's not a guide, okay? This build is not, how do I explain this build? There's a lot of inner workings to the build, so it's very easy if you're a new player, you're not going to understand everything. So I don't really recommend it for new players. I kind of recommend it for people who kind of already know what they're doing. But it is fun. And this is my version of Burst Rehan. There's other burst builds out there. There's Milky's Train one, which is kind of, let's not get into it too much, but I kind of did Ignite Train in Season 2 after, let's say a manic episode, and then Milky saw it, and then he made a Fizz hit version. That's how it goes. So this or that. No, this is my version of Burst in Season 4. And first off, let's just go some of the unique ways I'm building it, and then we'll talk about talents and skill. But really, the gear is going to be really important here because I'm building it in a fairly unique way. Now, the gear is not cheap, which is also another reason why I wouldn't recommend this. Now, I did start this build, so this build is startable. I do not know my exact gearing. I cannot recall my exact gearing path, so I just sort of upgraded as I went, and I was swapping skills a lot. The thing about this burst build is that it's really plugging your own skill. Each skill has some upsides and downsides as a burst delivery system. Once your gear gets good enough and you're in T7s, I think that it's kind of between Leap and Savage Charge for speed, and then or Savage Rush for speed, and then for single target situations in T8 maybe you're looking at Whirlwind. I think gives great single target for burst, and even in T8 Savage Rush feels nice, but you can also Whirlwind in T8, so you're blinking anyway, and you're not losing too much. You're losing a little bit of speed, but I think Whirlwind feels very comfortable to play. So I was Whirlwind a lot, and I still like Whirlwind, and I'm using Whirlwind a lot. Another option that is actually located in the newbie build. I'm just going to talk about what's main skills right now before I go into gear, and I'll talk about links later and all that shit. Okay, the newbie build's not there anymore, but Hammer of Ash actually gives you a lot of range. You don't get as many burst procs, but that's also another delivery system for your burst. And if you don't know what I'm talking about right now, because a lot of people ask me, or they're confused, burst is this skill here. So it's 550% weapon damage, which actually means it's 550% effectiveness of added damage as well, I'm pretty sure, and it goes with the weapon. And I'm assuming it's effectiveness of added damage because my added damage is scaling really well, and this is build that's only scaling added damage. So yeah, within 3 meters, and it's an attack, it's melee, it's physical, it's triggered, it is area. So we're doing all that. When I am okay, I'm not gonna go over the rest of the hero traits, just the burst right now. So that's what burst is. It's a triggered attack, right? So whenever I hit something, it'll trigger. I want to talk about the gear though. I kind of was going to, and then I went past it. There's some expensive things. Now, I think you really should get a defensive or empower box. I think defensive is more comfy. Now, my box is a little special because I double corroded it, and I got the absolute fucking nuts. So we're getting 8% more damage instead of 16%. So it's usually 16% less. We're getting 8% less. So we kind of gain damage there. And we're getting 20% additional cooldown recovery speed. You do not need a double corroded perfect box to play the build. But it feels really nice. There's other, you know, amulets you could maybe do, but in terms of comfort, I think this is probably my favorite one. It's also, you know, obviously expensive, so either farm for it or just use something else until then. The second big piece here is the Crimson King. With how we're scaling our damage and everything else, this is like perfect. We make use of every single node here. The added flat fizz here's the main mechanic of my version of the build. We scale all of our damage by adding flat physical per life consumed. This is a life consumption build, which is kind of what makes it unique. We only consume life to gain flat, and that's within a 4-second window, of course, because recently. So we gain all our flat within a 4-second window, and then just get out the damage. Now, right now, this character is optimized pretty much for just doing getting XP to 100. Here's the axe. We need to talk about the axe because the axe is going to drain you too in terms of cost. T-zeroing, and of course my cat's scratching right now, even though I thought she was sleeping. T-zeroing that flat physical mod per life consumption is really good. Then you want area damage. Then you want additional damage applied to life. Then you want probably double damage here. And your second best double damage here where I have the enchant. And then instead of strength, you want attack speed or attack crit. And then this mod is really nice because we consume so much of our life that we're always getting a 30% DR bonus for 4 seconds. It's pretty much always up. So how do we consume life? Let's talk about how we're consuming life. I'm going to be a little bit holistic about this, and then I'm not going to do like a set, like here's all the gear, here's all the hero traits, here's this. I will do a little bit of a slow pan at some point, but how are we consuming life in order to get this build to work? So we're consuming life by having Onslaughter. I have to pet my cat because she's going crazy. By going into Onslaughter, and we have this, which is 15% additional life regain interval, which is great because we hit a lot, but also consumes 2% of current life when you use attack skills. So we're consuming 2% of our life whenever we get a tick of our charge, which is, well, it's not 2% because we're also running the Recklessness support, which consumes 3% of our life every tick. So what that does is if we go to our attack rate here, you'll see that we're attacking 9 times a second, which means we're actually consuming 45% of life a second. I think. I'm pretty sure that's what's happening, and we're getting a lot of regain and life restoration from, I'm sorry, I have to deal with my cat at the same time that I'm recording this video, that we're doing this. So, another source of consumption is that we have this relic. This is an expensive relic, but it's the best one. End of the hero. And then we get 10% of our max life consumed per second when we are in Berserk. We also have 9,800 max life, so 10% is equal to 980, 5% is equal to like 440, or is it 440? No, it's 4 something. It's not 440, it's for brain not working. Okay, too early. I'll run through a T7. This can do T8 at this point, this build, so don't worry about that. The main thing is that I kind of don't want to do T8 right now because I don't want to die. So you kind of just have to take my word that there's some main skill, whether it's Savage Charge, Whirlwind, whatever you're doing, that can easily do T8 on this build. And we're pretty tanky in T8 as well, but I just don't want to risk it. Basically, right now the playstyle is very similar to Train or whatever else you have. I don't have a source of Explode right now, but if you wanted a source of Explode, there's a very cheap one in Warlord, because we are a fire convert build as well. Yeah, I forgot to say that. We're converting fire for fueling, so if we wanted to go True Flame in a T7, it's perfectly fine. You don't really lose that much. You can see True Flame popping here. And True Flame is not the best source of Explode, but you can notice it. I mean, you notice it pretty well here. You get a decent amount of that overflown damage on this build. If you want to go faster, you can always blink. You should always, if you're playing the build, by the way, you can't just hold down right mouse button. You want to blink sometimes so that you get your barrier, right? Because if you just hold down, watch, I'm going to hold down. There's my barrier at the top. It's going to go away, and then you might be thinking, well, he has guard up, so the barrier is going to come back up. No, it's only once you start channeling. Blink will slightly interrupt your channel, and then you'll immediately get your barrier back. So you need to blink at least every 4 seconds to get your barrier back, and then to evade stuff. So that's just that. I think this was 7-2. Was this 7-2? If it's not 7-2, I'm gonna go do 7-2 just in case so people know, because that's usually what I'm farming on this build where I'm getting XP. Let's do another beast plains real quick. Sorry, it wasn't 7-2, and I'm not gonna redo the video. So. Let's go back into the 7-2 and I can talk as we go. Okay, so we're consuming life, you know, every time we attack. We have a lunge of life restoration from our Crimson Cane, which means we're not, you know, since we're reserving our life, we're getting a bunch of damage reduction, we're getting crit chance, and we're getting life restoration, you know, per life lost. So I think it's, let's see real quick. We get life restoration per second for every 6% of missing life. We get 1.5% of that. So it kind of acts like a big life regen. And I'm running a defensive box, so we have a very defensive setup here. If you wanted to, you could run like a Hammer Bash or something in your E slot if you don't want to run another defense. And yeah, we're perma berserk because... Let's talk about why we're permanent berserk, because I get that question a lot. We're using Righteous Fury. Now, when I'm doing T8s, hold on. I go, in bosses, I go Frenzy Furious because it's so much damage. But when I'm just doing T7s and I'm chilling, I'm getting this because you get rage per life consumed, and we consume so much of our life that is just permanent, right? It's so much quality of life just to have that up. And we'll talk about a few more specific things when we get back into town. So, okay, let's get into the full rundown of everything. So that was that first 12 minutes. You might be thinking, oh wow, he's really, you know, giving me a thing. If that's good for you and you got enough info, then, you know, great. I'm gonna be a little bit more specific here for people who want more information at this point. So if you want to stick around, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine. But yeah, well, I'll go over each piece of gear. I kind of went over the box and the Crimson Keen and the weapon, but I'll talk about the other gear too. All right, gloves, Fervor gloves. These bases aren't that expensive. They're like 10 FE. I bought this for 10 FE day 2, and I've had Fervor ever since. You really want Fervor in this build. Don't worry. This prefix is kind of bad. This prefix is kind of bad. My gloves are bad, so they're just a Fervor. Here, you want cooldown recovery speed. I have T0. I have an additional tenacity stack. I have erosion res, life. You kind of want to get as high as possible on this mod because you're always low mana. High as possible life, obviously, and you don't want to blemish. So my gear's still kind of bad. I haven't really done a whole lot on it. Cooldown recovery on the boots, erosion, movement speed, very important. Life, very good. Life, good. Physical damage doesn't do anything, really, because we convert all of it to fire. Max 10 stack on the ring. Life, res, radius, and then I have melee damage and agility blessing, and also this mod is really good. So we always have barrier. This is really good in T8s, right? Because it doesn't really matter in T7s or T7-2 or whatever, but if you have erosion resistance barriers active, this is what makes me tanky enough to run T8s in those traveler areas that are kind of dangerous. And I mean, we already kind of talked about the axe. Let's go into the full hero trait rundown. So here's my relic. Do I switch my relic for when I go single target? I don't. So this is just my relic. It's damage and skill area. On your burst support, hold on. This is important. I can't forget this. When I'm running T7s for XP, now my other cat is going to fuck with me. Okay, great. Everybody say hello to Crow. He's on my cabinet. He's coming over. You want Steamroll always. When I'm running T7s, I run Mark here. when I want damage in single target in T8s, I run Elemental Fusion. So you want to run Elemental Fusion when you're not doing that. I can't see the screen. Hello, cat. Can you go? Can you go? Can you get going? Oh, you have something on you. A burr. Let me take that off in the middle of the video. Okay. And so let's talk about traits. I already kind of went over it before, but when I'm being comfy and I'm going for XP, I run this. When I'm doing things where I want damage, I do this. Come up here, you always go Tunnel Vision. Tunnel Vision is just giving you a massive damage multiplier. And you want Reverberation because it gives you basically more burst cooldowns. More burst cooldowns in and out of burst. Which is great. And then we have this allocated as well. So we're always Berserk, so we get an 80% multiplier. And yeah, we get 10% of max life. So let's talk about these memories, because I do swap memories depending on what I'm doing. Right now I'm in XP mode. I will swap them when I go into farm mode, when I'm doing T8s, when I'm doing bosses, all that kind of shit. So right now we have one additional melee. We have flat crit, which is really strong. And we have one additional melee damage for every 1 second the Berserk status lasts. You can get a tier 1 of this. It's kind of expensive, but this is 15% additional damage just for permanently Berserk. It's very good. Over here, I just have movement speed because it's really good, and flat crit. Now, when I go into single target mode, I'll do it a little bit here. You know, you want to take this off. You want to put in your Elemental Fusion. You want to put on Frenzy Furious. I'm going to do, and then I'm going to show the talents, and I'm going to swap those two. And then you want max rage, rage on crit, so you're always berserked when you're hitting. You can't maintain it when you're not hitting, but if you go this, you will always have it when you're hitting. And then what else do I go here? Oh, weapon damage and max rage, because max rage scales your Frenzy Furious. So those are when I'm going single target. That's what I do. I also might switch to Whirlwind when I'm going single target, depending on how I feel. So think about that as well, that I might switch my skill, and switching is so easy. Let's go to the right menu. It's all the same. You just go Whirlwind, bam, Whirlwind, and I think it's more damage. It feels like more damage to me. And then the only difference is you probably want to take out Precision Strike and put in Channel, so you get 1 gem swap as well. So I just like running Precision Strike for a little bit more drain on my health, because more attack speed means that it's draining me more, means it's adding more flat. So since we're on the skill screen, before I go to the talents, because there is some major talent swaps, and I want to do a slow pan of what I am using. We're using Blink, Magic Dash, Cooldown Reduction, Quick Recovery. Not going to go over just too much. Defensive Barrier, because we're running Tenacity, and it gives you pretty strong thing. This is 100% uptime, by the way. Extended Duration, Pain Amp, Cooldown Reduction. We're running Delayed Pain, also 100% uptime. Whenever we take damage, this is up. Actually, for Defensive Buffer, it's not 100% uptime, because it only activates when we get hit. So when we get hit, when we take hit damage, we will lose 4 Tenacity Blessings. We obviously get them up super fast because we get 1 per attack, and we attack 9 times a second. So, bleh, and it'll go right back up. But whenever we get hit, we get Defensive Buffer. Delayed Pain has 100% uptime because our Blood Rage is pretty much always up, or our Burst of Anger. So that's good. And then we have a Big Bull's Rage that is not costing anything because this is triggered on hit because of our box, right? Like we have a box set up. So this is the the skill setup might look a little different if you don't have box, right? Because this is all set up for box. And then for auras, I'm desperately trying to get armor. We're running Precise Fearless. It's just the best. Precise Acuteness Imbue, because it's scaling our fizz, and then it gets converted into fire, right? Because we're getting a bunch of flat fizz. Imbue buff, because it scales that more. Precise Swiftness, because it gives cooldown recovery speed, which is good. It's a stat we're looking for. And movement speed. Precise Crystal Hit with Scorch. Abysmal Hatred, and some... really, the Precise Rejuvenation is just for the life restoration speed. It's really good. But it gives a little bit of flat regen as well. And then I have Euphoria on hit with a Seal Conversion with Burst of Anger, so that we're getting it for most of the map. And then we're getting Summon Flame Spirit for a bunch of flat crit, which really helps our damage. And now here I have a 20% CDR and Skill Radius Candle. My candles are very good. I have a 20% CDR and Fire Damage Candle. This is probably my best one. And even though I've been farming candles quite a bit. Let's go into talents, and then we'll wrap it up. So for talents, I always keep God of Might the same. So I keep it on tenacity, and I keep it on feeling. Let's do a slow pan. So this is what I'm doing. You can just take a look or pause or do whatever you want to do. Warlord. I'll talk a little bit about these major talents. I kind of do a double swap here most of the time. Let's do it slow pan so you guys can see. I'm not taking the seal mana. I'm actually wasting a point here so I can just get up. It's very important to convert to fire. I'm actually using this to convert right now. You could get conversion on gloves, though. It's probably better because our prefix slot on gloves is... We only have one good prefix on our gloves right now, so... Think about getting a conversion on gloves, and then you save 4 points here, and you can put them somewhere else. And then this line's really good, and all that stuff. So when I'm doing maps, I like sweep. You can also go rock while you're doing maps. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but just know whenever you're doing a single target, or even I guess for T8s you can still use True Flame because the damage is high enough, but when I'm doing bosses, you gotta put on Focus Strike. It's a big damage boost, but we'll leave that on for now. And then when I'm doing bosses, I like to put on Rock. I think Rock is maybe even better for mapping, but here I kind of swap between these quite a bit. So I guess it's preference. It probably doesn't matter too much. You definitely feel the area while you're mapping if you have a sweep on though. But extra 10 stacks is always nice. And the reason for that is, let's go into here, into Onslaughter before I talk about the major talent. Let's do it slow pan. Slow pan, slow pan. We love slow pans. So you can pause and just see what I'm doing. And then, no, you need this, right? You need the extra consumption. It's very good. And you get a lot of life as well. And then we get the snow too. So now, we talk about the biggest, I think the biggest swap. When we are, just mapping or whatever, I go Arcane for the big life boost. When we need damage, when we need to be on a boss, you gotta go Sacrifice, change those Tenacity stacks, and then that's also why we go Rock, right? Because we want to go Rock and get the more 14% damage. We go Sacrifice, right? And we always have no loose ends up because we're low life, so we want 35% additional attack damage. But for that's the swap in Onslaughter, is you want to swap our major talent when we're doing bosses. And when I say doing bosses, I mean like Traveler and shit and invitations. Like, yeah, it doesn't really matter for like the Guardians, I don't think. I also want to do them a little bit faster. My Slate's not finished. We have great strength. You want Falling Leaves, so the ideal is to get Falling Leaves. Here I'm using 1 conversion, and I guess some sealed mana. That doesn't really matter. Here I'm using a Fizz per 10 level, radius and regain interval. Here I have a attack damage for every point of order. These are good order slates. You probably want to find a way to fit in 4 of these. I'm also getting additional order or minus additional order decreased speed so that my order stays up longer. You probably want either 2 more attack damage or 1 more decrease and 1 more attack damage. It's kind of a preference thing, I think. You run through the map so fast that it's probably 3 attack damage, and then you would just replace one of these. This one's pretty nice because it's giving me a double on that effect and then physical damage. So that's the Slate. I did relics, I did candles, I did skills. Oh god, it's 24 minutes. If you're on NA, hold on. If you're on NA. You can go to recent snapshots, day 6. And my build is right here, RehansNephew. So I'm RehansNephew. If you want to look at the build and you're on North America, you have that as a resource. If you don't, you can use this video as a resource. I will put timestamps. So thank you so much for watching. I'm a Problematic Boy. You can find me at twitch.tv/ProblematicBoyLive. Currently, I'm working on I'm not actually working on hitting 100. I'm working on Evasion Stacker Erica. It's been a lot of fun. We're currently like level 87 or something on that, level 86. So, yeah, take a look at that. Thank you guys for watching. Bye bye. Bye bye.